begins by asking when the practices are due. Remember last week you spent 2 days in class, a full class period and a 2-hour delay class period, working on those items. If you did not finish, you don't have to worry about that first one. I wanted you to get as far as you could, and if you're not finished with it right now, no worries about completing it. I'm going to give you another one later on that I will give you a due date for and will need to be totally completed. And eventually, you'll be submitting this for a grade, and your grade will be based on how correct you are in the answers. So there's a little motivation down the road. You'll get more details about that later on. But keep in mind that you will complete an OAA practice item for a grade. And it'll be a practice test just like this, administered in the same way. So you'll read a selection all the way through, answer questions, save and continue. You'll actually start to see most of your grade unfold. The only part of your grade you won't be able to see are the writing responses because I've got to grade those personally. Go to your Shared With Me folder. In your Share With Me folder, you should see a file. It's called OAA Practice Reading Items. Pull that up. It looks like this. Let me know if you're having problems. I'd like you to have 2 files up. This is one of them. The other I'd like you to create, and you can create it in your literature section of your Google Drive, and that will be called OAA Practice Notes. OAA Practice Notes. So you should have 2 files up, this one that I gave you and one that you're creating yourself, a document called OAA Practice Notes. Katie, would you be so kind as to share yours with me, please? Thank you. At the aclarkson@bex.net address. Okay, pause for a moment as we get set up. You sent it? Okay. And it should pull up in just a moment. Huh. It's usually pretty instantaneous. aclarkson@bex.net, right? Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so Katie, if you don't mind, I'm going to display your notes on the screen so everybody can sort of see how it's properly formatted. So we're going to start talking about how to approach a reading selection on an OAA because you'll be taking the reading test this year as part of 8th grade. So let's start with some advice for reading selections, and you can call it that. Advice for reading selections. Ethan, what's the first thing you do when you get to a standardized test? You see a big reading selection, some multiple choice, and fill in questions and so on. What do you do? Yeah, and that's the mistake. Ethan reads the questions first. Ethan and everybody else that's doing that, you're trying to take shortcuts to make your work possibly more efficient, definitely to save time. And Ethan and everybody else, when you're on an ACT and you're under the gun on time and you've got this huge selection and 10 multiple choice questions and you got to finish it in approximately 8.5 to 9 minutes, you might, yeah, that's what ACT's like. There are 5 of them on the ACT and you've got 45 minutes, which means you've got roughly 9 minutes per selection. They're twice as long as these, 3 times as difficult, and you have more questions. So yeah, if you're on that, Practice the shortcuts. Go ahead. The Ohio Department of Education gives you all the time in the world, and they don't give you much to do on these tests. So you've got the luxury of an excessive amount of time, which means we're not going to practice that shortcut. Advice number 1, read the entire selection before reading the questions. And you know me, I'll give you plenty of time too. Read the entire selection before answering questions. So not only should we read the entire selection, but our second piece of advice, what else should you make sure to read that some students might skip? Let's go back to here. Take a look at this and think about what else you should probably read that some students might skip. Ethan?
The note.
The note. What else? You're correct. What else besides a note should you probably read?
No.
Huh? Oh, okay. Katie? Oh, possibly the vocab at the bottom because there's some footnotes. Title. Excellent. So here we go. Second piece of advice. Read any notes, title, publication, or author information. Read any notes, title, publication, or author information. You never know what you're going to find that'll help you understand the selection going into it. And they don't include that information just because they feel like it. Read any notes, title, publication, or author information. Good. So we see the note right there at the top. Where do we see that other information? Alyssa, did you find the title or any other information? And where would it be? At the top of the page. You're right. However, I did copy and paste everything. So if you see, this is everything from the actual selection, which means it's all that appeared in there. So where else would I look besides just the top? Ethan? Okay, look at the bottom. So if it's not there at the top, let's look at the bottom. Let's scroll down. And we see what Katie was talking about, definitions of vocabulary in the footnotes. And reprinted with the permission of Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, Children's Publishing Division from Habibi by Naomi Shihab Nye, copyright 1997, Naomi Shihab Nye. What's the title of this piece? Information's confusing? Well, look through that information. What might be the title, James? Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers. That's the publisher. That's the company that publishes it. Gabe? Gabe, do you see the author? Okay, Tyler? Habibi, yes, is the name of the selection. By whom, Tyler? Very good. So you now know the author, you know the title, you know the publication information, the year of publication. Is any of that vitally important? Perhaps not, but it doesn't matter. You read it just in case it is. Sometimes it is pretty important information. For instance, if it were written in 1897, that would probably tell you quite a lot about the reading going into it. Now let's take a look at this note. Amanda, would you mind reading the note for me? Excellent. Jesse, what have we gotten in the note? What's the purpose for the note? Why is it there? because this is from a bigger piece, right? And we need to know what's going on. Good. Joey, importantly, what sort of information has the note given us? Okay, so it gives the basic action of the plot. We are flying to New York, which means we get a setting also. We get New York. Let's see, Matthew, what else do we get? Okay, so we get some character information about Poppy. So we get some character information, a setting, some basic motion of the plot. Alexis, other information that we get from there? Another setting and more action of the plot. So we've got Palestine, we've got New York. What else do we have? What other setting? Oh, yeah, we get character names. Good. And we get some character information about the narrator and her brother. Gabe? How old they are. Good. So we've got character information. We've got settings. We have 3 settings, St. Louis, New York, and Palestine. We understand basically where the plot is at this point. We don't really have any conflict yet, but we understand quite a bit going into it. Let's see. So we have 2 notes in your notes so far. We have read the entire selection and read important information. We've done that. We're good. Let's continue. Robin, would you mind reading the first 3 paragraphs for me, please? Excellent. Nice job, Robin. Thank you. As we pause there, I want advice number 3. Stop to summarize and reflect on what you've read throughout the selection. Stop to summarize and reflect on what you've read throughout the selection. Let me answer this question. Let's see. Gerard, if you don't stop through the reading and pause and think about what you've read, what's likely to happen to you while you read? Why? You're correct, but why? Oh, there's too much? You know what, Gerard, that's an excellent answer. I hadn't even thought of that one. If you sort of piece it out, it's a lot easier to see the entire thing. I agree with you. Not what I was thinking, but that's actually pretty smart. What was I thinking of? What happens if you're not stopping to pay attention to it and you read the entire selection? Matthew. Why? And you probably did what if you're a student reading a selection? Possibly. We're getting closer to it. Yeah, but that could happen anyway. I'm sorry. I was thinking that this was an obvious question. I guess I was wrong. You drift, right? You don't pay attention to what you're reading. So you read the entire selection and realize that you've paid attention to maybe half of it, if you're lucky. All of your answers are correct, but I think the biggest problem that students have is they will drift through selection, stop paying attention, and they will miss important parts. Same thing happens during class lecture, which is why teachers often emphasize taking notes. In fact, I don't even tell you that necessarily you really need to study your notes as if they are a sacred object, but just taking them in class helps you pay attention. Okay, so we've got 3 pieces of advice here so far. Let's put that into action. Underneath paragraph 3, I would like you to type a summary statement of the first 3 paragraphs, as we've done before. Could be one sentence, could be two sentences. Just make sure it summarizes what you think is important about those 3 paragraphs. Good. So let's start here. Bridget, this is yours, right? Did I pull up yours? Did I pull up Katie's? Yeah, okay, good. Bridget, this is yours. At this point in the story, the family has arrived in New York but left all of their bags at the airport. Poppy wants the family to see what he had seen when he was first in America. Poppy tells the family stories. Looks pretty good. I agree that if I didn't read those first 3 paragraphs, that would help me understand the course of what's going on in the story. I think there's one detail probably missing a little bit from that. Gabe, what, yeah, and I think I would throw the Statue of Liberty in there, but it's not vital to understanding the overall story. Okay. And let's see. Kayla, it looks like you're on the same track as Bridget. Leanna and her family are visiting New York, but left all the suitcases at the airport. Poppy wants the family. And once again, you're doing the same sort of thing as Bridget. I think it's important that we know that Poppy is bringing them to important sites, like the Statue of Liberty. And to tell stories is correct. Okay, how about paragraphs 4 through 6? And Alyssa, would you mind reading 4 through 6, please? Excellent. Thank you, Alyssa. As you read those 3 paragraphs, what question pops into your head from the material you've read? Joey, is there something in those 3 paragraphs that you are unaware of, that you question, something that seems strange and different to you? Oh, okay, 19 years after his first arrival. And so can somebody explain to Joey what is meant by 19 years after his first arrival? Why that's a transition device? Bridget.
Poppy was in New York before, so it was 19 years after he had first come to New York.
That's correct. It's 19 years after Poppy has first come to New York. If Joey were confused about that, he might take that portion, write on it, circle, underline, write a question mark. And this leads us to the 4th piece of advice. Write on what you read. If you want to be a critical reader, you want to pay attention to what you're reading, and you want to maximize your understanding of the selection, you stop, you reflect, you summarize, and you also write when you have questions. So write on what you read. Is there anything else in there that was confusing? Ethan? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. All standardized tests allow you to write on them. Yeah. Never would they say, no, you may not write on this. They're not reusing it for anybody. Once you get a test booklet, that's your test booklet, and it will be yours until it's destroyed. Yes? Why are they going to Palestine? True. Let's see, the note tells that they're moving there but hasn't told us why. So that might be a question that you would ask. That's the one that I was thinking you guys might ask, is this word booza. And so, Tyler, what are you inferring that booza means? Because that's the word for booza in Palestine, right? So yeah, I would assume that. However, it might be confusing at first, and I might flag it, ask questions. Underneath paragraph 6, I'd like you to type a new summary statement, please, for just what's going on through paragraphs 4 through 6. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got up here. Lexus, is this yours? That's yours, Bridget, again? Okay. Family has walked around New York for a while and gotten ice cream. Poppy has told the family that the word for ice cream in Palestine is booza. Liana is not thrilled. What's she not thrilled with, Bridget? I'm not sure that that's exactly what she's rolling her eyes about. Take a look at it again. What? What about the marshmallows? You're almost there. What's she rolling her eyes at? It's closely related to that. Gabe? Very good. Rafiq's being a smart aleck, making a silly joke. She's rolling her eyes about her brother. It's typical sibling kind of thing. Oh, my brother's silly, so she's rolling her eyes. I'm not sure that I would read into that she's experiencing anxiety about going to Palestine yet. She may, and that's sensible, but I don't think we have it yet. Families going around New York and getting snacks and making memories that they will remember in Palestine. Oh, good. So, Robin, that's yours. The important bit being snacks and memories, and I think both of those are emphasized, so good deal. We're going to go with the rest of the selection. Do I have a volunteer to read paragraph 7 through 10? Don't all raise your hands at once. Tyler, thank you.
Many felt exhilarated by the skyscrapers that glittered lines with the curves of words. We could ride every single elevator up and down, pushing buttons to get on and off. Some days we remembered the world was full of wonderful people we hadn't met yet. We got 7 postcards with different pictures. Brooklyn Bridge, Washington Square, Fish Market. By the time we returned to the airport at sundown, the night flyer overseas a storm was sailing somewhere over the dark Atlantic. We heard rumors about it from the passengers at the gate. Ominous booms of distant thunder made Rainy feel edgy inside, giving me loose bugs, we thought. flight was running 2 hours late, and we kept our eye on the other people waiting to fly.
Can I pause you for a moment? You kind of just run over her name. Always make sure that you can pronounce a name out loud in order to read it in your head. Liana. There you go. Keep going.
The flight was running 2 hours late, and Liana kept her eyes on the other people waiting to fly. She wanted to see if they looked nervous.
Good.
But they only looked 60 feet. A young lady with a flowered scarf tied around her chin, lugged a fruit basket, crammed with jello boxes, paper napkins, and coffee filters. Didn't they have those things in the Middle East? Another lady rolled up her husband's wearing coat and made her little children lie down on the floor with their heads up. No one looked nervous at all. From the peak of his backpack, he pulled out a giant sack of corn nuts. Liana went to sit at the other side of the gate. She couldn't stand to sit next to somebody crunching. She scribbled in a notebook one Indian lady in a purple safari. Sorry.
Good. Excellent. Nicely done. Summarize underneath paragraph 10, right where my cursor is. Give me a last summary of what's going on, paragraph 7 through 10. And just think pretty general. There's a lot of detail in there. So just think generally what's happening in paragraphs 7 through 10. Okay, let's take a look up here at what Gabe has done. Liana is feeling anxious about the move to Palestine and draws a picture of a woman crying. She also feels unsure about the plane ride because the weather is bad. Good. So some important details. We talk about anxiety, and I definitely think that the author is importantly developing Liana's anxiety in a couple different ways here. The fact that the weather is bad is probably an important detail that helps add to that anxiety as well. And then Gabe has included the detail of the woman in the sari crying. Liana was interested in the elevators to see who went in and out. The flight was 2 hours late due to a distant thunderstorm. Liana observed and saw that no one was nervous. So Gerard's got some important details in here too. In fact, paragraph 7, where Liana was excited in New York, is missing from Gabe's. So there's one detail that maybe we should have included in there. She has a fun time in New York and feels very excited, but then there's a sharp contrast with her nervousness in the airport and the distant thunderstorm. And Gerard might have wanted to add that to his summary. Saw that no one was nervous, but she herself was. So all of that works pretty well. You're doing a good job at pulling out the main meaning there. We've read the whole thing. You've got 4 pieces of advice. We read the notes beforehand. We read the entire selection. We stopped frequently to summarize. You were encouraged to write and make comments on anything that you didn't understand, although the whole thing seemed pretty straightforward. Let's go to questions, and we'll start a second selection of advice. This is advice for answering questions. So can anybody give me any piece of advice for answering? Let's start with multiple choice questions on this or any sort of test. Alexis. Exactly. Eliminate obviously incorrect answers. Thank you, Alexis. So we're going to number 1. Based on information in the passage, why does Poppy want his family to help him in retracing his steps in New York City? A, he wants his family to sample food that is unavailable in Palestine. B, he wants his family to experience New York City before leaving for Palestine. C, he wants to give the family something to do while waiting for their delayed flight. D, he wants to take his family to meet relatives in New York City before leaving for Palestine. Jesse, can you eliminate one of those, A through D, right off the bat? A, you're eliminating A, and why is that? Good, it's only a small part of the story, and we also have Statue of Liberty and other important details. Food is not the only thing that we're looking at. Good, A is gone. Eliminate another one. Bridget, why D? There are no relatives met in New York City. Excellent. Anybody going to eliminate another one? Matthew, why C? Okay, it seems like the delay is a little bit later. And there's another reason why we might eliminate C. It seems like this is pretty important to Poppy, right? So it doesn't seem like it's just something to do to occupy their time. He wants his family to experience New York City before leaving for Palestine. We've eliminated A, C, and D. And you can do it. Or maybe not. Yay, okay. And we are correct. B is the right answer. In what way can Rafik be described as a static character? Somebody want to give me the definition of static character? Gerard. Very good. Remain the same throughout the story from beginning to end. His character has a minor part. His character is quiet and respectful. His character is unchanged by the end. His character is related to the main character. Gerard, which is the correct answer? C is correct. They might as well have just asked you what is the definition of a static character. And since you know that, Gerard knows it. He knows the answer is C. And once again, that answer is correct. We will skip written questions for a moment. I want to do all of the multiple choice, and then we'll go to the writing. Which statement explains Liana's reactions to her brother Rafik? She finds him amusing. She thinks he is annoying. She is sympathetic toward him. She suspects he is as nervous as she is. This, I know, hold on. You're doing a great job, but I want to slow down. Second piece of advice for answering questions. Reread portions of the text as necessary. Reread portions of the text as necessary. I saw a lot of hands go up on this one, but what I'd like you to do before you just answer it is find text support. So go back here, and remember, you've got time on this. It doesn't hurt to go check your answers. So I can think of 2 places in the text where you could find some support for your answer. See what you can find. Alyssa, what you got?
I'm looking on
Give me a paragraph number. 10. Okay, read. Liana.
Liana went to sit at the other side of the page.
Excellent. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
She couldn't stand to sit next to him.
Good. So those first 2 sentences are evidence. And we haven't gotten the answer yet. What's the other piece of evidence, Robin? 6. Liana rolled her eyes. She's rolling her eyes. She's moving away from her brother. So, James, what is the answer? B. She thinks he is annoying. And again, that is correct. Look at this. Liana shows her annoyance by rolling her eyes when Rafiq jokes about marshmallows in paragraph 6. Robin pulled that up. Also, she moves away from him when he opens a bag of corn nuts. Alyssa pulled that up. Perfect. I'll say this again and again, and I'm hoping that you'll put this into practice, especially when you're doing one of these for an actual grade in this class, and you're doing it for the real state testing. You follow these directions. You go slowly, take it step by step. You can ensure correct answers virtually every time. This one's interesting. And do we have time for it? No, we don't. So this is the one where we will begin tomorrow. So we'll start with question 5 tomorrow. Pick up those notes, continue to work on it, work on another selection, and so on. So you can close up everything and put the Chromebooks back.